Hey everyone, happy holidays. We are into December and the holidays are upon us, which is why tonight we're going to talk about making merry when you're trying to watch your weight. So if you think this could be helpful to anyone, I'm just going to give you a quick heads up that we're going to be diving into. We'll talk a little bit about some practical applications, but we're also going to be talking bigger picture about the mindset that goes into our nutrition choices and what we eat and how we take care of ourselves, our relationship with food, which to me is a lot more interesting than how to shave, 200 calories off of your holiday spread. So if you think this is going to be helpful for someone else, of course, go ahead and click that share button. I'd love to help spread that message to someone else. And let's get started. So there's always that internal struggle, right? When the holidays roll around and we know that lots and lots of nutrition options are going to be available to us. And we might feel like we're a little bit torn, like we want to be able to enjoy it, but we don't want the weight gain or the way that might make us feel to really be part of that. Now, unfortunately, those often are irreconcilable struggles or irreconcilable desires, but we're going to talk about how to really find your sweet spot and making sure that you are enjoying the holidays, enjoying what it's supposed to be about without feeling like you're behind in your goals. So to really back up why I think this is so important and where so many people just miss it when they're only talking about, calories in and calories out, is we need to take a step back and look at our relationship with food. And even a step behind that is to look at our relationship with taking care of ourselves and being healthy and look at what the whole point is. A lot of times people are driven to make health decisions just because they feel like maybe they should, whether their doctor told them to or someone they loved brought it up, or they just really know what they should be doing. Because really, oftentimes the healthy choices, it's not difficult to know what it is. We know what it is. It might be more difficult though to put it in action. So with that in mind, it can be very easy to think of food is just a transaction. Either it's something that we are making up for because we didn't do very well, or something that we are punishing ourselves over because we want a different outcome. I really want to challenge you to look at, if you have a desire to be healthier, look at what that means to you on a big picture. Okay, we're taking care of ourselves. We're taking steps towards taking care of our health so that we have more pleasure in our lives. It's not because someone told us that we should. It's not because it's some moral imperative. Although I do think those around us, their lives get better as the more that we take care of ourselves and our longevity and our ability to have energy and really show up in the world. But primarily it's about you. It's about maximizing your pleasure as opposed to just doing what you think you should. Now, when you start to think about health and nutrition in particular in this way, it really reframes everything for you. And I think takes a lot of stress away from that internal struggle of wanting to enjoy food and holiday parties and time with loved ones and traditions, baking cookies. And not only during the holidays, this can definitely apply throughout the year, but it tends to be a little bit more accentuated during the holidays. So if we start to encompass that mentality of what is it I really, really want overall, big picture, I think that will actually really inform your decisions over what you eat on a day-to-day basis. So I think it might be helpful to think of this in terms of, similar in the way that you spend money. The ultimate goal isn't just that you don't ever spend money, right? So it's not necessarily to keep every single dollar in the bank. We've all heard those stories of those self-proclaimed, self-made millionaires who got that way because they lived off top ramen and never spent a dime and, cut their rubber bands in half so that they could pinch every single penny. Well, sometimes falling on one extreme of the health scale can be a lot like that, where we're pinching every penny, we're hoarding our calories, so to speak. We don't want to spend those calories because we feel some imperative to be as healthy as possible. But again, you have to ask yourself why. Now, of course, most of us tend to fall on the other extreme. So if we're using that parallel of spending money, think about the fact that If you spent every dime in your bank account on things that weren't smart, you've got negative implications. You've got negative consequences that come about as a result of that. So when it comes to spending money, most of us do a little bit better with keeping this proportion in check when it comes to spending money. I'm going to talk again about how that relates to our nutrition. But most of us, we don't want to spend everything we have, because then we don't want to live with that's going to make our lives not as good. But it's also going to make our lives not as good if we don't ever spend and enjoy the money. So I challenge you to use that analogy and framework as a way to think about your nutrition. The goal isn't to be as healthy and rail thin or as low body fat percentage as possible, unless that's a really specific goal for you. If you're training for an event or something that's going to give you that payout, you really need to ask yourself what it is that you want and where that allocation of pleasure in the moment versus pleasure, a little bit longer term, is really going to shake out for you, because it's different for everyone. I talk a lot in the Boss Body System. So if you're a member of the Boss Body System, you'll hear me talk about finding your fitness sweet spot, that area where, and this applies to nutrition as well, but that area of healthy living that is really maximizing your pleasure while requiring the minimal amount of sacrifices. So I know this is kind of more cerebral than just, eat vegetables at a party, at a Christmas party, and avoid the eggnog. But I think it's much more interesting conversation, and I think it's much more important long term, because as long as we only view calories as, as a bank account that we either should spend or shouldn't spend, then that's what gets us into a lot of ups and downs, a lot of unhealthy relationships and cycles with food, where it's restrictive and then binging and then restrictive and then going nuts. So as long as we start to ask ourselves those questions of what is going to make me happiest, then I think the whole dilemma of whether or not to indulge throughout this holiday season and always gets a lot easier. So I will personally get into the habit of asking myself, will I be glad I had this? And you might be surprised to hear me say that, if it's something that's not super healthy, sometimes the answer actually is yes, especially if it's in the context of spending an evening with my family and loved ones and celebrating something. I'm going to go for that glass of champagne. I might have a pizza. I might enjoy that favorite Mexican restaurant that's a tradition for my family. That actually is going to be making me more happy, but I'm able to enjoy it and add to the pleasure because I've said no to those things that really aren't going to add to my cumulative happiness. So for me, and what I might suggest for you, for example, is I really do my best. I'm not perfect, but at the office, for example, I really don't think that those are where my calories are going to be best spent on junk food. So if you work a day job while you're building your business, you might find this as well, that those calories that are spent just scarfing down those endless holiday cookies that everyone brings in because they don't want to keep in the house, just as a quick distraction, maybe either because you're bored or you're stressed and it's really just to kind of give you that momentary break, that's probably not going to contribute to your overall happiness, especially if you're doing that regularly. Then you're going to start to see the weight gain, which doesn't make you happy. You're going to start to feel sluggish at the time that you need to feel energetic in the middle of the afternoon. So those are things that are not going to contribute so much to your happiness. But whereas that intentional choice, and if you've made those series of choices where you said no in the appropriate manner, then sometimes it's okay to say, not only okay to say yes, but sometimes the answer is, yeah, I'll actually be glad that I had this. And not to put so much moral weight on the decision of what to eat. A lot of times we feel this is either a good choice or a bad choice. We feel that angel on our shoulder versus the devil on our shoulder. So I encourage you to help kind of curb that in. It's helpful to set some policies. So of course, not just going into the new year saying, oh, I'll just eat whatever I want now and then start later, because I feel like that just kind of perpetuates the cycle. If you haven't switched to in that way of thinking yet in your mind of really maximizing your pleasure and going after your goals, both short-term and long-term, and finding that I hate to use the word balance because it's overused, but finding that proportion that works for you. If you're not cultivating that now, chances are you won't come January 1st. the body doesn't recognize any difference between Christmas Day and New Year's Day. It's going to metabolize those calories the same. So I want you to start working on your mindset and just on your awareness of how food affects you and your mood. Sometimes, like I said, I do believe there's a pleasure component to food, and I do believe that there's a mental component that makes you feel good when you're enjoying dessert on Christmas Day with your family. But it's all about looking at the context of it and, of course, the frequency of it. And I will also say that when you are making more judicious choices about what's going to be contributing to your overall happiness, then you actually enjoy those times that you say yes even more, because you know that it's not really having a negative effect on you. You know that you're not making those decisions frequently enough so that they're going to start to have that negative impact. So be excited that overall our relationship with food and our relationship with our bodies and our health is actually all about maximizing our pleasure. I feel good that I can fit in a certain size of jeans, but doesn't mean that even losing more body fat would make me even happier, right? So you have to look at everything in that context of what's maximizing your pleasure and your goals. And of course, you're weighing that short term versus the long term. But sometimes the short term pleasure is not necessarily a bad thing. It just needs to fit into the bigger picture. So I hope this helps for you. I hope you look at maybe making some simple policies for yourself about when you indulge in quote unquote unhealthy food and when you don't. I do think you're probably going to be happier overall if you don't use the whole month of December as an excuse to, or sometimes even an imperative, like it's Christmas, so I've got to eat this. I hope you don't use that as an excuse, because I do think saying no sometimes will make you happier by the new year, especially if weight loss is the goal for you. Then of course you're going to be happy that you said no some of the time, but you might not be happy if you say no all of the time. So choose those indulgences well, enjoy them, don't sweat them, certainly don't feel guilty about them. And I look forward to hearing how this works for you. I do want to let you know that next week, a week from tomorrow, Wednesday, December 14th, I think that puts us at, I am going to be offering a very special free pre-party. This is taking place on Facebook Live, but it will not be taking place here. So let me tell you first what it is, and second, how to make sure that you can get involved. So the pre-party is for my upcoming Reset Retreat, which is a virtual retreat happening over New Year's. There's also going to be a replay option for people who can't specifically join us live for those New Year's dates. But this is going to be something new. I'm really excited about, a chance to come together to not only take a break from all the hustle and bustle and recharge ourselves through things like yoga and meditation and guided journaling, but also we're interweaving that just as equally with coming up with a good plan to weave self-care goals and self-care practices into our 2017 goal setting. So and this is all just talking about the retreat itself that's happening later in the month. So they've just got so many goodies for you. I won't tell you all about it now because I'm going to be doing that at the retreat pre-party, which is taking place next week. So that pre-party will also have some guided meditation and deep breathing. We'll do some relaxation right then and there. I'll also give you some tips for weaving self-care into your 2017. And of course, I'll give you that opportunity to not only sign up for the virtual Reset Retreat at the beginning, or the end and the beginning of the year, I should say, but also, of course, get the very best value and all of the awesome presents, because I've got presents for people who show up live to the pre-party. So I want you to be a part of that. It's going to take place at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, next Wednesday, December 14th, and it's taking place on the Elevate Entrepreneur private Facebook group. So I would love for you to be a part of that group. We have daily theme posts. We have accountability for people who are trying to take care of themselves as they take care of business. So specifically for business owners, I would love to invite you to be a part. You can join by first downloading my free self-care guide for entrepreneurs at elevateselfcare.com. When you join that, you'll be invited to request an invitation to our Elevate Entrepreneur private Facebook group. You'll also then get the calendar invitation you'll be included when those invitations go out to get that calendar invite for that pre-party next week. So please sign up. Of course, drop any questions that you have below in the comments. Of course, I would love it if you could share this with anyone who you feel would benefit from it. And I cannot wait to see you at the pre-party. Take care.